SNAFU, OreGairu. My youth romantic comedy is wrong as I expected. Whatever you want to call it, it's officially back for a third season. And what better way to celebrate than catching up on everything that's happened to Hiki and the gang so far. SNAFU is the story of sacrifice, friendship, and young love. Young love. Young. What does that even mean? Okay, I think I can get on board with this. I wonder what it sounds like in English.
Yeah, hello!
And we ruined it. Speaking of ruining things, if you're worried about spoilers, maybe switch to another neat video because we're about to go deeper than Hiki's inner monologue. The story begins with a young, friendless Hachiman Hikigaya, bitter from years of rejection and torment, but there's a glint of hope in his eye as he's about to start fresh at a new high school with nobody around who knows of his cringy past.
God, it's so hot today, right?
More like humid, I would say.
Huh?
Loser!
Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he spots a hot dog. Having skipped breakfast, he knows he must act fast, so he throws himself towards his meal, and before he can even say isekai, he's reborn with a hot dog for an arm. But unfortunately for Hiki, the driver of this wealthy mystery mobile slams on the brakes and only hits him hard enough to be hospitalized for the first several weeks of school, which, as we weebs know, is a vital period for making friends and fitting in with the youths. After being released, he returned to a school so invisible to others that even hitting them with a sick wouldn't earn their respect.
Maybe I'll just sit down instead.
There was only one person in this school that saw potential in him, despite his terrible posture and weird hair. His teacher Shizuka,
You have eyes like a dead fish.
who borderline blackmails Hiki into joining the school's service club, which is dedicated to solving any problem the students of Sobu High might have. Ridiculous made-up club, right? Well, after doing some in-depth research, I've concluded that it's a real thing. The club only has one member, club president Yukino Shita, nicknamed Ice Cold Beauty. She's known for her incredible talent of living her life with a giant stick up her, making her far superior to her peasant classmates. Oh yeah, and she's also filthy rich. Suspicious? Well, don't jump to any conclusions just yet, because you'll definitely be right. By a coincidence so unlikely it must have a deeper connection to the plot, immediately after Hiki joins the club, a bubbly pink-flavored airhead, Yui Gahama, enters the room, looking for assistance. Noticing a pattern with the names yet? Another way the Japanese like to screw with us. Looking at you, Mario. After helping Yui bake some cookies, she is so inspired by Yukino's stick that she decides to join the club herself. Coincidence? Probably not. To thank the club, she surprises them with her own batch of homemade cookies. So the moral of the episode was teach a waifu to fish, and she'll make lemonade? In the next episode, Yui learns the importance of not going along with whatever her friends say. She does this by ditching her usual friends to go do whatever Yukino tells her. Soon thereafter, we are introduced to our first side character, an adorable little Chinibyo by the name of
Yoshiteru Zaimokuza!
His request to the service club is simply to review a light novel he wrote. Now I know to you weebs that might sound like a lit way to spend a weekend, but the club is a little less than enthused, and rightfully so, but the club takes on the task anyways. After pulling an all-nighter, the club members return to school just in time to absolutely roast this dude. I mean, they tear his soul into a million pieces.
Reading it was actually painful.
But this turns out to be just what the masochist needed and reignites his passion to improve his writing. The next few episodes follow the club as they solve more of the students' problems, each one teaching us a little more about the club members' personalities and methods of problem solving. Lone Ranger Hiki uses grit and self-sacrifice to power through issues, while Yukino focuses more on planning and teamwork. And Yui helps. We meet characters such as the tennis team captain Saika Tatsuka, aka Hiki's true love, and Yui's not so friendly friends Hayato Hayama and Yumiko Moira. The more problems the club solves, the closer Yui thinks they are growing as friends, despite Hiki and Yukino's obvious denial. We then have the honor of meeting Hiki's little sister Komachi, who despite Hiki's terrible posture and weird hair, clearly cares deeply about her older brother. In episode 5, the club bumps into each other IRL, and inadvertently have their first social soiree. But the goofs and gaffes can only last so long because later Komachi drops the bombshell that the hot dog with legs actually belonged to Yui, and she was only being nice to Hiki because she was riddled with guilt over what happened. Hiki is overcome with jealousy over Yui's delicious snack and puts an end to their friendship by writing her name on the friendship-ending staircase. Held back by the chain monster, Yui stops attending the service club altogether. An unfazed Shizuka tasks the club with replacing their fallen comrade, and this is the first time the gang actively acts in the interest of their friendship, by deciding to throw Yui a birthday party. And what birthday party is complete without accessories? So the two go on a date-not-date to the mall to pick out the perfect present.
Please go out with me.
I'll go that way.
Then I guess I'll head over that way.
Since the show is set in small-town Chiba, it's pretty common to bump into other characters everywhere the club goes out. Today's first coincidence is Yukino's older sister Haruno, who immediately takes a liking to Hiki despite his terrible posture and weird hair. She teases the two for being out on what clearly is a date, until coincidence number 2 shows up, and Yui also sees that they're clearly on a date and makes her jealous face. Hiki then neat-splains the situation to Yui and tells her that she doesn't have to pity him. As usual, Yui's at a loss for words. But Yukino steps in like that monkey breaking up a cat fight and tells everyone to take a chill pill and start fresh with a nice... Fast forward to summer break, where Hiki is very inappropriately bamboozled by his teacher into attending a children's summer camp, where Hiki and the gang meet the newest member of the Lonely Club. And no, I'm not kidding, this is her name. Wait for it. Rumi Sarumi. They tell her that life only gets harder with time, and that she better man up and make some friends while she still can. Completely ignoring their hypocrisy, Hiki and Yukino have a romantic meeting under the stars, where they open up to each other for the first time. Team Yui falling behind a little bit, eh? After Hiki's convoluted plan to trick the other kids into liking Rumi actually works, Yukino is picked up in the very same car that hit Hiki in episode 1. Top 10 anime plot twists or what? Thanks to Komachi pulling the old switcheroo, Hiki is tricked into going on a date with Yui to the summer festival. They bond a little bit before, believe it or not, they bump into Haruno again, who this time roasts Yukino for her social skills, and confirms that it was Yukino who caused Hiki's accident. Rather than being angry at Yukino, Hiki is furious with himself for ever having trusted her. The next episode has one of the best title translations I've ever seen. It's called, "And so the curtain on each stage rises, and the festival is festivaling its very best." At this point, Sobuhai is bursting with excitement as they plan the yearly cultural festival. Yukino shoulders all the work, while the snake Minami takes all the credit. Falling behind, Yukino does the unthinkable and skips a day of school. Outraged, Hiki makes some Japanese pun that I don't really understand, and as usual, everyone jumps because they forgot he was in the room. Slowly, their fright turns to cringe, and it must have been a terrible pun because everyone kicks it into high gear just because they don't want to be seen doing less work than the dude with the terrible posture and weird hair. In an episode titled His and Her Youth Continues to Be Wrong, the big day finally arrives and goes off without a hitch, man.
Idiot, you are such an idiot!
Until it becomes time for Minami to award the house cup, but is nowhere to be found. Hiki, knowing the appeal of self-isekai all too well, instinctively runs to the roof to save her, but ends up getting stabbed. Let me try that again. Runs to the roof to save her, but she's being a whiny little snake, complaining that Yukino got all the credit. Rather than try to argue with Satan, Hiki uses reverse psychology to once again make somebody mad at him enough to do their job. This method pisses off Hayato, who proceeds to roast Hiki, followed by Yui, then Yukino, and then Shizuka actually praises him briefly, but then roasts him all the same. Slathered in barbecue sauce and roasted to the core, Hiki enacts his revenge in the season finale by cheating in the athletic festival and getting his entire team disqualified. That'll show him. And that brings us to season 2, with 2 O's instead of a number, because it's about to get even SNAFU-ier. The stakes have been raised in every regard. You thought summer camp was epic? Well, hold on to your slippers, because we've got a field trip arc. The gang's packing their bags and heading to Kyoto, just like I did on my anime expedition to find the locations I'm about to discuss. Link in the description. In comparison, season 1 was essentially just filler that set up the character and relationship dynamics, but never really used them in any meaningful way. But season 2 really steps it up. The first request that the club receives is from a character named Kakeru, who needs help talking to a girl named, Hina Ebina. The club decides to use the field trip as a catalyst to spark some romance between the two. But turns out Hina is only into IRL yaoi, but just before she can reject Kakeru, Hikigaya swings in and takes one for the team. He confesses his own feelings to Hina Ebina, who proceeds to explain to him that she just doesn't want to date anyone right now. Hiki thought this would be the best way to let Kakeru down easy, but once again the girls yell at him for always sacrificing himself. Even though IMO, he was just making money moves and everyone else thanked him for it. Hiki and Yukino go on another romantic walk together, which begs the question how Yui even stands a chance. Oh, yeah, okay, I get it now. She has other assets, like her unwavering positive attitude and love she shares with everyone around her, and her gigantic... The field trip was a fun way to kick things off, but it doesn't really hit the fan until they get back to school, where in my opinion the most important character and #1 waifu of the show is introduced. Wildcard Ishiki Iroha, a forward underclassman whose addition officially makes SNAFU into a full-blown heroine. But that's a spoiler because right now she's got a thing for Hayato. Shh, don't tell anyone. Ishiki's request and the main throughline of season 2 is to help her lose the student council election, to which she was nominated against her will based on her popularity. Hiki wants to throw the election by giving the worst speech possible, but as usual, Yukino doesn't like logic and fights back. After school, Hiki runs into Hayato and some kids he knew from middle school. Not the ones that bullied him, but the girl he used to have a huge crush on. Hayato invites Hiki on a double date with the girls, but it turns out to be a bit of a trap. No, not that kind of trap. Like a booby trap. No, not that either. The girls spend the whole date teasing Hiki and clearly both just want to be with Hayato. The hostility peaks when Hiki picks out a subpar restaurant,
Size A, I guess.
and the girls just bully the shit out of him for it. This is the last straw for Hayato, who blows up and puts them in their place,
I don't really like that.
even tricking Yukino and Yui into showing up to make Hiki look like a real harem protagonist and get the girls jealous. If this wasn't dramatic enough, Haruno was hiding in the bushes the entire time and pops out to slap Yukino. I'm not sure why she did it, but I love the drama. Back at the club, self-sacrifice hating Yukino sacrifices herself by deciding to run against Ishiki in the election, confident that she can win. Yui then raises 3 fingers and whistles, for some reason, before throwing herself into the race as well. She feared if Yukino won, she wouldn't have time for the club, and that wasn't acceptable. So by Yui winning the election, she also wouldn't have any time for the club. Wait a minute. The next episode is titled, "The Scent of Tea Doesn't Fill the Room Anymore," which sort of makes me want to cry, but also a little thirsty. Hiki scrounges together every person he's ever talked to into one room to brainstorm another candidate who could potentially win over the haremesses? But has a brain blast and instead catfishes a Twitter campaign to make it look like people really want Ishiki to win.
Brain blast!
He uses the fake data he mined to convince Yui and Yukino to drop out of the race, and Ishiki wins by default. Tension is at an all-time high in the club room, so Hiki watches his classmates in order to learn how to socialize. Probably something me and most of the people watching this video could really benefit from.
Why are you staring at me like that?
Ishiki comes in and is like, "WTF mate, I don't know how to be president, you tricked me." The club refuses to help, but Hiki tells her to meet him in the alley behind the Family Mart so that he can offer his personal services on the side.
Were you trying to hit on me again just now?
Together they attend the student council meetings, which are run by this dope with very presidential hand movements. The council ignores child labor laws and makes the executive decision to outsource their work to grade schoolers. And obviously there's only one school in all of Chiba, so this includes Rumi Surumi. Hiki tries to get the council to narrow down their vision for the Christmas event, but they're pretty dead set on having a fortune-telling musical made bake sale. Hiki soon finds himself moving his hands in strange ways and realizes that he's becoming the leader of the student council. Later we have another chance meeting. Hiki runs into Yukino, who grants him maternity leave from the club to go raise Rumi Surumi. At this point it's pretty clear that the entire town just stalks Hiki, waiting for their turn to bump into him, because on the way home from his chance encounter with Yukino, he bumps into Haruno, who corners him on the edge of a bridge to lecture him on dealing with the club's constant sexual tension. But her plan backfires, because not only is Hiki drinking his coffee black, but has also fixed his posture and weird hair. Haruno is so taken aback by Hiki's newfound Chad status that she is slightly and kind of inappropriately flustered. Hiki half listened because the following day he asked for the club to bail him out, but continues to ignore the triangle-shaped elephant in the room. Yukino says nah hello, so Hiki starts to cry, bringing him right back down to virgin status. Yukino runs off to the roof and gets stabbed. I mean, to create a more cinematic backdrop for the club's emotional climax. Reuniting, the gang commits to having a more emotionally open and honest future. With the Christmas event only a few days away and little progress being made by the student council, the gang does the obvious thing and really hunkers down to grind out the last details for a super fun trip to the amusement park with everyone invited, except Rumi Surumi, who rumor has it is still cutting out star shapes to this day. As usual, Hiki and Yukino run off alone, but their romance is interrupted by Ishiki confessing her love for cooking in the nude to Hayato, and then running off crying before he can even process the joke. Get it? Cause Satoshi Ishiki from Food Wars?
Idiot!
Hiki consoles her, and this is the first time that we as the audience are shown that Ishiki is clearly best girl. Thanks to Rumi Surumi, the Christmas event goes off without a hitch. Shigaya? Wait, did I already make that joke? Yui finally makes some incremental progress and takes Hiki shopping for the perfect birthday accessory for Yukino. And by the laws of anime, after the Christmas episode comes the Valentine's Day episode. Hiki's alone as usual, so that leaves Hayato, who knows all too well the effect his beautiful blonde locks have on the ladies of Soba High. In an attempt to spare feelings, he declares he is allergic to chocolate, and that absolutely no one should give him any, or he will die. But the power of his blonde hair is too great, and rather than respect his wishes, the service club hosts a DIY chocolate making class. For some weird reason, Haruno shows up.
Are you really this boring, Hikigaya?
And it's just such a I'm sorry, but holy shit, get a job, go to college, all you do is follow high schoolers around and give them weird lectures. Despite the romantic tension being at a seriously cringy level, the event is a huge success. Next, Yui and Yukino have what they call a slumber party. But I didn't see any pillow fights or twister tournaments, so it was more of a business meeting than anything. And what happened then? Well, in Chiba they say that Yui's small brain grew 3 sizes that day. She racked her big brain until a scheme she had lay and invited Hiki and Yukino to the park where she'd say,
They're kind of like birds, huh?
Penguins actually are birds.
on what would be their final outing as the service club we all know and love, the dynamic trio explored the aquarium, rode the Ferris wheel, and found a dramatic place to talk. So this is where things get a little complicated. Yui came up with this really convoluted plan to fix their relationship, and I'm not sure if I even understand it, so bear with me. Yui confesses her love to Hiki by giving him the Valentine's Day chocolates. She announces that her goal is to date Hiki as well as to maintain their friendship. She assures Yukino that if she just backs off and lets Yui have her way, that she will still be her friend and the status quo will be maintained. Yui is manipulating Yukino's inability to act on her own desires, as she is always selfless to her own detriment. At this point it looks like Yui's won, but Hiki steps in and says Yukino must solve her own problems and face her feelings on her own terms. Yui then admits that she knew Hiki would react this way, so that insinuates that she never intended for her plans to succeed, but was just trying to force Yukino into confessing and get everyone's feelings out in the open. It's a beautifully crafted scene that perfectly capitalizes on the character development across the 2 seasons. But just as we're about to find out who Hiki is going to choose, Yukino changes the subject and they all fuck off to somewhere else, leaving the season finale on a cliffhanger before making us wait 5 whole years for another season. But honestly, I can't complain too much. I'm just happy that they're actually bringing it back. Now I know what you might be thinking, but Quinn, I thought you said Ishiki was best girl. Where is she during all this? Well, Studio Feel agrees, so that's why they made a bonus OVA, which is 20 solid minutes of quality Ishiki? Hikishiki? Quality Hachiroa time of them trying to figure out the perfect first date location. Clearly this is the real season finale if you ask me. And there you have it. That's everything that's happened to the gang so far without any jokes or embellishments. If you've got a few seconds to spare to hit the little like button down there, it'd be really appreciated. And if you tried to subscribe, I wouldn't stop you. I guess there's really nothing left for me to say, but yahalo!